Sure. My name is Charles Allen Lyles. I go by my middle name because Charles is also my father's name, and that keeps it more clear. The college I teach in is the College of Public Affairs. I'm in two schools. I'm in the School of Health and Human Services. I'm also in the School of Public and International Affairs. That comes about because I've been at UB. This is my 23rd year. So I was in the College of Public Affairs before it was a college. And when it split, that's how I wound up that way. I teach courses that relate to health policy, that cover health insurance, public programs, private insurance, and the uninsured. So it integrates matters of quantifying risk, quantifying value. So I bring quantitative aspects into the course to understand it also from a values-based perspective, and that is what inequities do we see and who is uninsured, who is underinsured, et cetera. What do I teach? I teach because there are two things aside from my family, two things in life in which I have passion. One is education and the other is healthcare. They're both personal. Education for me represents the possibility of transit and to change the circumstances of one's own life, but that of their family and their community as well. I had the experience of being poor, coming from the rural South, in which most of on my father's side, aunts and uncles were functionally illiterate. My father died illiterate. He didn't complete second grade when my parents were divorced. I went to live with an aunt who could only sign, as in S-I-G-N, her name. That was it. She couldn't read and write. She didn't complete first grade. All of this is a matter of poverty, and it led to decisions and actions that were constrained in terms of the resources available, nutritional choices, but also exposure to preventable severe illnesses. I was infected with tuberculosis and hospitalized when I was about 4, in that range. As an adult, I've had the experience of neurosurgery and benefiting from advanced technology and what that can do. As much as I am grateful for that, I can appreciate even more that education and better health policies actually followed through and implemented could have prevented the exposure to tuberculosis, could have ameliorated the circumstances in which it unfolded subsequently. Tuberculosis is more than a matter of a mycobacterium. It also relates to the susceptibility and immune status of the recipient. So malnutrition is a risk factor for that, which is not uncommon when there's poverty. We moved to Baltimore. I grew up through the Baltimore City public school systems, grades 1 through 12, went to high school blocks from where the campus is for the University of Baltimore, and received an outstanding education. And along the way, key people who facilitated pivot points in my life were teachers. And it's made all the difference. And I've benefited from being born in the USA. I know that there is the possibility for education as a birthright in certain European and Scandinavian nations. That's not true here, but I have benefited from the opportunity of programs with loans, scholarships to obtain several advanced degrees. That hasn't actually helped when I decided to become a teacher. In 2009, my department chair said to me on the highway of progress, "You're a boulder," meaning that I wasn't an early adopter or even a late adopter to technology. So I took that seriously. I went to what is now the University of Maryland Global Campus online and completed a graduate certificate in distance education, globalization, and development. That permitted me to have some knowledge as well as skills in online learning and how that can occur. It also gave me the experience as a student with deadlines and juggling different things and not even noticing that there was something due, whereas in a classroom, classmates would say to me, "How are you coming along on this paper that's due?" And I would say, "Oh, we have a paper. But when you're on your own with an online course, it's possible for that to just fall off the calendar, so to speak. I think it's made me a better teacher. It's made me more willing to adapt. I benefited from Dr. Constance Harris at the CELT Center when I first met her when she came here. She said, I have encouraged faculty at my former university and here that they make a video saying welcome to the course and introducing themselves to the students. And my first thought was, yeah, I'm not doing that, because it felt very uncomfortable. With the pandemic, I became aware that my discomfort was unimportant. I needed to do that because I needed to let the students know who's at the other side of these pixels if you're taking an asynchronous all online course. That gave me the opportunity then to use more resources and to bring a diverse array of potential speakers, either through recorded lectures already, but also through webinars that I've been able to develop through CELT and through the Rosenberg Chair that I hold in the College of Public Affairs. Learning, it's like having water if you're thirsty. I wake up curious. I think I have shared with you before, my wife says that when I die, of course, I'll be cremated and she'll put me in a coffee can because I drink a lot of coffee. And the plaque will say, curiosity killed this cat. I am almost pathologically curious. I'm curious about the world. Why would that be? And in the circumstances that I've had, when my parents divorced, I lived with relatives for about 7 years. And then during that time, for part of the time, my mother lived in Baltimore City housing projects, Perkins projects. They've recently been torn down. So some of the time I would live there. And as I moved back and forth in different universes, I couldn't help but be struck that that people are people. These are meritorious people, and they're in difficult circumstances. And when I was there, we were all in difficult circumstances together. So that has informed the way in which I approach education, because up to that time, I struggled in school. I still don't spell very well. I came from non-standard English of the rural South and an uneducated family there. My mother had gone to middle school but had dropped out. So I was familiar with the transit and challenges to just getting to the high school level. Education has been the vehicle. While it might be in somewhat easier path in European and Scandinavian countries, in the US, it's still possible because there are grants, loans, and scholarships that facilitate that. The aspect of the helping hand that came from people who weren't obligated to go above and beyond to help a struggling student, I've taken that seriously, because at the University of Baltimore, the mission resonates for me, because we have students who would be successful at any university. We also have some students, it's their second time. Life intervened and was challenging, and they had to deal with other things. And then we have students whose lives are very complex, but they aspire to learn more so that they can do more, so they can make a difference, they can achieve something in the world. And I'm thinking, this is a privilege to be able to do this. I was motivated to come to the University of Baltimore after being a faculty member at Johns Hopkins for about 5 years, because prior to that, I'd had neurosurgery, and I was thinking in the terms of, what does your life represent? What makes a meaningful life at the end of it? Because I was still getting MRIs to see if this tumor would come back. And what I came up with is the most important thing I can do would be to be an effective educator. Teacher, I think, sometimes means I'm pushing information. And then multiple choice test is, are you getting those packets of things? Have you memorized them? And I can say, as a former pharmacist, you can memorize an entire library, but that doesn't mean you understand much. It's, you know, a lot about these individual factoids. So what I'm hoping to do is to provide a framework and a synthesis that allows them to analyze what they're learning, to have it be retained in the important ways so that they're tools that they can take with them after they graduate throughout their entire career to apply and update what they know, to be truly lifelong learners, but lifelong thinkers. Think for yourself. Well, I don't know about insights and wisdom, but what I would like to share is that I share their passion for the success for our students, that we have some amazing faculty who are deeply committed to our students. And I understand the challenges that we're all facing during this pandemic. And how do we facilitate the relationships that occur in an educator and those who are in the courses in which they are giving instruction?